So what I've learned is nothing easy. Okay, nothing is easy. It's hard. It's really, really hard. This is what the important learning is. And in terms of, there is always a risk when you work with a startup or when you work with a new technology, right? So you have to manage your risk. You have to keep it simple, and you have to be very like kind of optimistic and focused on whatever you do. Okay.
Welcome to our series entitled The IM Podcast, a podcast about innovation, business, and most importantly, people. In this series, we'll be talking to founders, executives, and various experts about their vision, challenges, best practices, and lessons learned throughout their journey. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Today, I am excited. I am joined by the country director at Silas, Ashish Upadhyay. Hello, Ashish.
Hello, May. Thanks for having me here. It's a privilege.
It's our pleasure to hear from you, to learn from you, talk about the problem, the product, and your journey. Okay, so let's just get
Of course.
started. If there are investors or to our viewers or audience listening right now, could you talk to us about your unique value proposition at Silos?
Silas is a company which has been working for a cybersecurity solution for trains, for mainlines, urban market. We help mainline and urban companies to tackle with a security, incident or a safety incident, and we are focused purely on rail cybersecurity.
Okay, so what did you identify? I mean, what was the gap that your founders identify, the problem that you guys are trying to solve?
Yes. So what has happened in the last 10, 15 years in the railway industry is there is a race of getting advanced. We wanted to drive trains faster. We wanted to have more number of passengers on board. We wanted to use more digitalized technologies in the ecosystem, in the railway ecosystem. So if we talk about the railways, it's a mix of legacy systems which are working. Okay, if we talk about 10, 15 years, traditional systems are working in the ecosystem. There are new technologies which has been adopted. Okay, so in terms of the technological gap and also the obsolescence that is happening over ages, so it creates a gap and it creates a vulnerable situation in the network. Okay, and year on year the attacks are growing in the railway industry. Okay, and it is also growing in terms of geopolitical state driven attacks. Okay, if in fact today's railway system, I talked about it, it's a mix of legacy systems and the new systems, right? So we found out that there is a gap, and there is no specific cybersecurity solution for the railway industry. If we talk about, there is cybersecurity is kind of in here for 10 years, I guess, but there's no one size fits all. Okay, railway environment is unique, it's complex, it's difficult to protect. So there was a technology which was developed by Silas specifically for this environment.
What's the current solution? And could you talk about the how are you better than the existing ones?
So Silas offers solution specifically for, first of all, to the unique needs of railway industry. We understand the solution, understand the specific protocols, the specific technologies that are adopted in this industry. So railway is a mix of multi-vendor technologies which is used in one ecosystem. Okay, the signaling supplier could be different, the rolling stock, the trains could be coming from different vendor. There could be a different telecom system that is being adopted into one ecosystem. So what happens is, due to multi-vendor technologies which is being used in railways, okay, we Silas product has a capability, first of all, to understand in bits and bytes what is happening in the network. Okay, could there be a vulnerable code or a malicious code that can create a security or a safety incident inside the network? So the product is based on AI and machine learning algorithm. And since I told you, we understand those important proprietary protocols, we have threat intelligence team which keeps on monitoring globally where are the cyber attacks which are happening, and based on that we keep on upgrading our technology, and also we have a good look on the dark web. So it holistically we are considered as a global leader in the railway cybersecurity. We are the global leader basically, and we have the right technology, people, and processes to secure the railway network.
Yes, so you're the first to market this kind of solution.
Yes.
Okay,
right.
So please go ahead.
Yes, so we were the first one, and we have multiple deployments globally. We have been working in Asia Pacific. We have multiple deployments in Europe, in US. So yes, we are the first to market this solution in the industry.
Okay, could you share with us one user story?
User story, okay. So in terms of the user story, mostly whenever this industry is driven by people are not proactive, they're reactive. Okay, so what happens is when the things get bad, then you call 911, right? So this is how it works. But in terms of we have experience where the systems has been already compromised, and then recovering from a cyber attack is a different process altogether, right? What happens is it's like you are working on a workstation, you are working on your laptop or a mobile, and your hard disk gets corrupted. You are not able to recover the complete data. So this is one point. And second is in terms of denial of services or ransomware kind of an attack, it creates more operational losses and reputational loss for the customer. So this is a part which I wanted to share in terms of the user stories. The operator has they generally talk about creating a security offering a security solution which can basically help them to elevate their safety level as well, like protecting their safety integrity level systems, and having security on board. So user stories there are two kind of deployments which goes towards the wayside or the trackside devices, the signaling system, and there is an onboard which is the trains. Okay, so in terms of having a holistic deployment, you need to protect the trains and also your operational network in terms of the wayside or the trackside thing. So what happens is generally the Silas one is deployed not only in the trains but at the operational control center, which is the OCC, from where the command goes to the trains so that those normal operations takes place very easily. Okay, and in terms of the users, it could be any users. It could be a mainline user. Okay, it could be an urban user where the metros or trams are coming. It could be a high-speed train user as well. Okay, so these are the different personas in terms of the users.
Do you have to comply with any national standards or regulations?
Of course, of course. So in terms of the regulators, in terms of the regulations on railway cybersecurity, we have seen that regulators understood there should be a standard which should be followed across the globe. So generally, as an industrial cybersecurity, IEC 62443 is one of the standards which is followed by everyone. But for railways, there is a new standard which has came up, which is coming from CENELEC, TS 5701, which is a rail cybersecurity standard applicable for signaling solutions, for the fixed installation, for the rolling stock, for the telecom and everything. Okay, so this is one of the standards. And then we have state-driven standards as well. So Australia has their own standard for railways, AS 7770. US has their own standard, and they also do regular cybersecurity audits on their system, which also keeps them, a little bit secured and protected. Similarly for Europe, yes. So there are state, and definitely there are more standards which are required on the country specific, which also gives help us to first of all tailor our solution as per the industry. We have industry standard, but definitely as per the state standard as well.
How many years have you lived in Israel again?
Yes, so I have spent a year, more than a year in Israel. Yes, I personally post my railway journey when I started my career in railways. I spent most of my time there. I thought of doing further studies, higher studies. I went for an MBA program at Tel Aviv University. So I spent my master's graduation there. Yes.
Yes, you have
So
your
yes.
as a
Yes, go
country
ahead.
director, right, at Silas, you have one of your feet in Israel, one in India. Right. First, I want to ask you, like, where did the fascination about Israeli startups came up? Like, where did you realize I want to work for a startup, the startup nation?
Right. A very good question, because when I would take a step back. I would first of all talk about my MBA journey. Why I chose Israel, because when you choose a higher studies program, that also gives an indication that you have done due diligence, you have researched about in which country you are going. So Israel is always considered as a innovative hub, innovation startup nation, basically, right? So when I thought of doing my MBA, okay, I'm coming from a background where I have an experience of having a journey into the innovation or entrepreneurship basically. So and technology always excites me, okay, the new technologies. So I chose Israel because of having that mindset which is innovation driven, startups culture. I spent most of my time in bigger organizations, in the tall organization. The startup is always when you start working in a flat organization, right? And Israeli startups is always exposure to work in an Israeli startup is always a priority for me when I studied about Israel, when I studied in Israel, right?
Mhm.
So that was a whole passion, and definitely being into Israel got me a very good exposure with the startup nation, and also the people who are very different from if you talk about in India. So the mindset is different, the culture is completely different, and definitely I really enjoyed my time there. And definitely at the end of the day, the goal was to work for an Israeli company, and this is how I get into it. Yes.
Mm. Okay. So, yes, you mentioned about the differences and the similarities. Yeah, I would love to put more on that, like cultural synergy, the work culture. Could you talk to us about that?
Of course. So in terms of the difference, first of all, Israelis are very straightforward. Okay, they are assertive, persistent. Business is always on top, so business is fast paced. But definitely uh, talking about uh, uh, the culture, it is more open. You can go for a coffee. You can straight away talk to your colleagues. In terms, there is if you're working in a startup, the leverage is you have direct access to your senior management. Okay, could be a straightforward, good relationship. They're very transparent, and they also expect you to be very transparent and honest, right? So relationships is very important. I think relationship part is also important in Indian culture as well, because once you have a very good relationship, the work you can work very easily in terms of if you're having a good relationship. So that is one part. And definitely transparency and the culture is also pretty much similar, I would say, in terms of the cultural aspect. Most of the Israelis travel to India after their IDF services, and they love India, they love the food here, and they understand the Indian culture as well. So that also brings a good synergy between both the cultures and working together.
Mm. So, did you experience culture shock when you first visited or when you first worked with Israelis?
Yes, there was a good shock. It was a surprise when I went to Israel.
Mm,
But definitely, since I studied there, there was a journey which I completed, where I learned about the
mm.
experience, and also I did my internship there. So definitely, it made me used to it. Like I don't felt a very big surprise when I joined an Israeli company. So and definitely when I was in Israel, I got I got an exposure to meet the with the co-founders of our company in Israel itself. So yes, Mr. Amir Leventhal, who is our CEO, and Mr. Mickey Schiffman, who is our CTO. So I've met them personally there, and definitely we were in touch for a longer time. And when I came back to India after my studies, we started the discussion, and then I came to the company as country director.
A while ago you mentioned about having a direct relationship or direct communication with the management, how to deal with it. So there may be listeners right now like Indians who want to work for startups or with startups. So what's the best thing to do? How to go about it?
So startups always, gives you this. There are various advantages where I talked about, having a direct access to the management, which also gives, kind of responsibility and ownership of your work as well, right? So there are some expectations, and also there are some direct, since you're working with your peers, which are are CEOs, or the in the CXOs in terms of the startups. So they also have some kind of missions or goals for every quarters, or some expectations of building the business. Definitely having a direct relationship, and a direct open relationship with them gives you, make you more comfortable to talk to them. And also it builds a trust and credibility. If you are delivering, if you are making a milestone, together, that this is what I would be doing. So it definitely, reaching a small milestone builds more credibility and trust. So this is what I would like to say, that be very positive, and nurture your network in terms of professional network inside your organization, and have a direct communication, which is a key to work in the startup.
Yes, you said they're very straightforward. They're frank. Like you have to go to the point. No more beating around the bush, right?
Right, right.
So, how do you handle conflicts or disagreements?
So conflicts are healthy. Okay, definitely, you can openly talk about the conflicts. I can always question my boss that if there is something which I'm not feeling is right, you can always talk about it openly, right? And definitely there are forums where these things are addressed, and the right decision can be taken. So conflicts are healthy, and I think it's always good to challenge a decision, so that it's in favor of the company. At the end of the day, you're working for a company. You're targeting an organizational vision, and you want to work towards it, right? So this is good.
Okay. How often do you travel?
There was a COVID situation. I could not travel, but I told you, since I was very much, I was in Israel, and I had an opportunity to meet with the founders, and with the team. We know each other personally. Okay, there was the team from the Israel was in India a month before. Okay, I'm traveling to Israel next month. So yeah, it's part of the business, and depending on the work, the travels are quite okay, because there is a good relationship between India and Israel, and also there is no kind of restrictions as such as of now. Everything is going good, politically, and
Yeah.
in terms of the business wise. Yeah.
It's also a good time to speak about like to Israeli managers, to founders, right? For startup founders, I mean, maybe it's time to leverage the tech talent about hiring Indian teams. So why should they hire Indian teams?
Right. So you already gave half of the answer, that there is a tax talent here, right? So engineers are there. There are a lot of engineers in India, right? You will get any sort of talent in terms of if you it's a hub of uh, high tech industry as well. Like Tel Aviv is considered as a high tech city, right? Similarly, we have high tech cities around India. So there are in north of India we have Gurgaon or Noida. This is one setup. In the west part of India we have Mumbai, Pune, which is one setup. Bangalore is and Hyderabad is considered as a one setup. So you in geographically India is a pool of talent, geographically widespread, and and every region has got some kind of a diversification as well. So you will get more pool of talent in terms of engineering, in terms of the computer science kind of an engineers in the south part of India, right? There will be some more marketing activities, or sales professionals, offices in Mumbai or in Delhi. So there are, so based on the profile, you will get a lot of talent from the Israel. For the Israeli managers, the best part is they have good options to choose from. Okay, if you need to open your venture in some part of India where you want to target, you will get like the talent everywhere. Definitely, choosing the right talent purely depends on what a cultural fit as well, and also in terms of rightly adopting to the Israeli startup culture. So that is also one more thing to focus on.
So you mentioned about culturally fit. So what is it with Silas that you said, okay, we are a perfect fit?
Perfect fit in the sense, I would say for me it was the right matchmaking. Silas is a company where the focus was railways and cybersecurity. Okay. The company founders are coming from elite technological unit of IDF. Okay, so cybersecurity experts. And now I would say, since you already mentioned that railway expert, right? So it was a perfect marriage between railways and cybersecurity, and this is what the company was looking towards. And this is the reason Silas is professionally, focused on rail cybersecurity. Okay, so we have multiple resources. Those are railways experts, professionals, and cyber professionals coming from IDF. Yes.
They are working with remote teams. So how did you go about that? Like, how did you convince them? Okay, you can trust me.
Okay, so remotely, it's a new way of working, right? Definitely, before anyone assigns you a task, there is always a trust factor that I know that a person whom I'm allocating a task would complete it, right? So you always have a trust before you set a goal for them. So this is only a medium where you are talking on Zoom or you're having an in-person meeting. In-person engagements are really important, but Zoom or any kind of communication, it's kind of a communication medium or a channel. I think there is no after COVID situation, there is nothing which is stopping to make you work because you don't have an in-person engagement made.
So you have worked with initially worked with a multinational company. Now you're working for a startup and remotely, right? Do you think it's an advantage, or like what are the pros and cons of working with remote teams?
So yes, you miss your colleagues. If I miss having a coffee with my fellow colleagues who are sitting as well. So that is a constant. But there are a good advantage that you can when you talk to any person over a Zoom or over a meeting, there is always some time that has been allocated, and you can openly directly communicate with them. Okay, so this is the one part. And second thing is in Startup also, what I felt is, I talked about the flat organization. There are various advantages of that, that you have direct access to anyone, okay? And it's very fast paced, and also if you are sometimes you expedite the process very quickly. Tall organizations are particularly, they follow a very a good process. So sometimes execution, when you take a decision, execution can reflect in some more time rather than startup. So this is one good advantage. And definitely startups are focused on having setting up a business, right? And you are making a journey from scratch. So you are setting a new market, you are setting a new benchmark, which is very important, and you are taking new initiatives, right? So this is what I'm enjoying right now, May, to be very honest. And also in tall organizations, you have a work package to manage, you are more focused on your work. Since it's a big organization, you don't have access to like a lot of people. But anyways, it's good to have a good exposure from the multinational companies, which sets your a mindset and nurture you in starting only.
Mm. Yes. So the mindset that you got from the multinational company that you would like to carry at Silas.
Right. So in terms of the multinational, since I'm working in the same industry, that gives me an advantage. In my last stint with the multinational, I was in the railway industry, in the mobility industry. Still, I'm in the same industry. However, the role is changed, right? So from a multinational company, so you come up with some set set network, expertise in that particular market, and definitely there is a good process that you learn from those bigger organizations or multinational companies. So when you work for a startup, definitely you need to scale up, you need to have a process on board. You can learn from, since there is always an experience for multinational, you can replicate that, and you can always customize it according to your experience, and on however the mission is of startup.
Yeah. So as a country director, what are your challenges?
Country direct. So good question. So first of all, when I started, that opened the territory for Silas. Okay, this was a new technology. Okay, so there was no one talking about real cybersecurity, to be very honest, right? So the technology was coming from Israel, very good. Whenever you talk about new technologies, there is always an time and adaptation time, penetration of this technology into the market, right? So you need to create a lot of awareness inside the market, like what is real cybersecurity, right? And then you talk about the technology. So this was one of the key challenges, that there was no one having a right competency on a real cybersecurity, because there is a lack in the talent in this industry. Okay, point number one. Second thing is, we talked about the regulations, right? There is no real cybersecurity regulation in India right now. Okay, so there are good engagements in terms of when this market needs to be started, there should be a regulator, and there should be some policies or framework on which the solution should be defined. So currently there is nothing, but I'm expecting that there should be a regulation soon, because we have got a recent national cybersecurity strategy last year, and now every critical infrastructure is taking care, and framing their own policies in terms of railways or others. So this was one of the bigger challenge, and definitely when since I'm alone in here, okay, so I told you I don't have a colleague right now. So definitely we work with different partners, and we have a good network here. But since I'm alone, so that is also not a challenge, but having someone with you gives you more add-on advantage. It's good to have two rather than one.
Yeah. So are you hiring people from India or
Yes, we are
Israeli?
in a process. Yeah, we are in a process. So Israeli, since we are expanding in the Asia Pacific market, we have some strategies to hire in India. You might be seeing some PRs announcements that we are focusing on the Indian market, and there will be a good expansion of the business here. Okay, and definitely after getting much success in the market, yes, we are expanding.
Nice. Okay. What is the most important lesson that you have learned throughout your journey as an entrepreneur, as an intrapreneur?
So what I've learned is nothing easy. Okay, nothing is easy. It's hard. It's really, really hard. This is what the important learning is. And in terms of, there is always a risk when you work with a startup or when you work with a new technology, right? So you have to manage your risk. You have to keep it simple, and you have to be very kind of optimistic and focused on whatever you do. Okay, so this is one of the learning, and also the most fundamental is, if you're solving a problem, okay, you should have a clear vision, and also try to make a sustainable market, right? You need to have a sustainable business. If you're getting a easy easy win, it is not a sustainable. You have to make it sustainable for a long term part as well. Okay, so this is my core message.
Okay. So what are you going to pick up? I mean, the very first thing that you will get when you go back to Israel.
From India, I take a lot of souvenirs. In terms of, since it's a big country, you can see there are a lot of souvenirs coming from when I travel to the other places around the globe. So similar to that, I take these things from India to Israel, and we have different sweets in some kind of sweets and food, I would say, that I generally take. And there are some fragrance sticks which which is almost appreciated by every Israeli, because it gives them little bit closeness to the Indian culture. So these are the 2-3 things which are pretty much unique, and I think I will take them to Israel.
Okay, I forgot to ask a while ago, but okay, how is your founders to Indians? I mean, what are
Right.
the common feedback you get from them about the Indian culture, work culture?
Okay. So I told you, Israelis know about India a lot. Okay, so definitely there is always a topic to discuss about the Indian culture, and the favorite place, the good places to go in terms of the tourism, or food. So these are the very common topics. Apart from your work, you can discuss with them openly, right? So and in terms of the culture, I was recently talking to one of my colleague. We just celebrated Diwali like few weeks back, Festival of Lights. Now, in next week onwards, the Festival of Lights of Israel is starting, which is Hanukkah, right? So there is always, I saw some correlation between the culture, and definitely there are a lot of topics to discuss apart from the work. So yes, and we have some happy hours, so we do those discussions as well, right?
Okay, amazing. So thank you very much, Ashish, for your time today and for sharing your insights, especially, the Israeli and Indian collaboration, work culture, the synergy, everything. All the best to Silas.
Right. Thank you so much, mate. It was fun. It was first time for me, but it was a fun.
This podcast is powered by imops.io. Optimize your cloud infrastructure and CI/CD process with imops.io dedicated DevOps team. Check out www.imops.io and get a DevOps team now. Make sure to check out www.imops.io if you want to know more about us. Subscribe to our podcast so you can get notified every time we post a new video. Thank you, and you have a great day.